Translation. When Lord Brahma was fully informed by Angira about the entire incident, he severely chastised the moon god Soma. Thus, Lord Brahma delivered Tara to her husband, who could then understand that she was pregnant. Text 9. Please repeat after me. Tyaja, Tyaja, Ashu, Dushpragye, Tyajashu Dushpragye, Matkshetrat, Ahitam, Paraihi, Matkshetrat Ahitam Paraihi, Na Aham Tvam Basmasat Kuryam, Naham Tvam Basmasat Kuryam, Striyam Santanike Asati, Striyam Santanike Sati, Tyajashu Dushpragye, Matkshetrat Ahitam Paraihi, Naham Tvam Basmasat Kuryam, Striyam Santanike Sati, Tyajashu Dushpragye, Matkshetrat Ahitam Paraihi, Naham Tvam Basmasat Kuryam, Striyam Striyam Santanike Sati. Tyaja, deliver. Tyaja, deliver. Ashu, immediately. Dushpragye, you foolish woman. Matkshetrat, from the womb, meant for me to impregnate. Ahitam, begotten. Paraihi, by others. Na, not. Aham, I. Tvam, you. Basmasat, burn to ashes. Kuryam, shall make. Striyam, because you are a woman. Santanike, wanting a child. Asati, although you are unchaste. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Brihaspati said, you foolish woman, your womb, which was meant for me to impregnate, has been impregnated by someone other than me. Immediately deliver your child. Immediately deliver it. Be secured that after the child is delivered, I shall not burn you to ashes. I know that although you are unchaste, you wanted a son. Therefore, I shall not punish you. Can I repeat the translation? Brihaspati said, you foolish woman, your womb, which was meant for me to impregnate, has been impregnated by someone other than me. Immediately deliver your child. Immediately deliver it. Be assured that after the child is delivered, I shall not burn you to ashes. I know that although you are unchaste, you wanted a son. Therefore, I shall not punish you. Purport. Tara was married to Brihaspati, and therefore, as a chaste woman, she should have been impregnated by him. But instead, she preferred to be impregnated by Soma, the moon god, and therefore she was unchaste. Although Brihaspati accepted Tara from Brahma, when he saw that she was pregnant, he wanted her to deliver a child, deliver a son immediately. Tara certainly very much feared her husband, and she thought that she might be punished after giving birth. Thus, Brihaspati assured her that he would not punish her, for although she was unchaste and had become pregnant illicitly, she wanted a son. Thus ends the Bhaktivinoda purport and translation to Canto 9, Chapter 14, texts 7 to 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So in these texts, we see how Soma became attracted to the wife of Brihaspati named Tara, and although Tara was Brihaspati's wife, who is the most learned priest of the Devatas, heavenly kingdom, and therefore her position was very uh, honorable, very highly respected, even among Devatas. Unfortunately, she had illicit connection with Soma, and a result of which she became pregnant, which was very unbecoming. So therefore, the whole incident came to be known by Lord Brahma through Angira Rishi, and so Brahma became very unhappy and he chastised the moon god, being responsible for this entire situation. And then Lord Brahma addressed Tara and said that you better deliver this child. I'm sorry. Uh, Brihaspati said that you better deliver this child immediately. And she was not delivering the child because she was afraid that after she delivers the child, she would be very severely punished by her husband. So Brihaspati assured, don't worry, you wanted a son, and therefore you did this act, so I will not punish you. Do not fear. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains, as a chaste woman, actually she should have been impregnated by her husband, Brihaspati. But instead she preferred to be impregnated by Soma, the moon god. Therefore, she was unchaste in her relationship. So we see Shastras explain that everybody has the nature to enjoy. We have come to this world with that primary intention to enjoy, independent of the Supreme Lord. So this enjoying tendency is present since time immemorial in all of us, right from Brahma down to an insignificant ant. This tendency to enjoy sense gratification is very prominent in this material world. Our very existence is for the purpose of enjoying sense gratification, and that is our intent for which we came to this world. And we should note, Prabhupada explains a very important point. For man, woman is enjoyable, and for woman, man is enjoyable. Many times in Bhagavatam, we see a woman is being placed in a position where uh, she is being expressed, she is being presented as very dangerous, the cause of fall down in spiritual life, detrimental to a spiritual practitioner. Now, here we should understand this term woman actually means to be enjoyed, to enjoy. So that tendency is there even in man. So that is why Prabhupada says for man, woman is Maya, and for woman, man is Maya. Both have the tendency to enjoy. But actually, the Supreme Lord's position is to enjoy. He is the only supreme enjoyer, and everybody else, their position is to be enjoyed by the Lord. And Prabhupada always gives this example of uh, the finger and the body. This finger is part and parcel of the body, and naturally it is meant to serve the whole body, and in that way, the finger remains intact and healthy. But if the finger cannot serve this whole body, that means it is in a diseased condition. If it can't serve the body. Similarly, when the part and parcel, jiva, cannot serve the Supreme Lord, then that jiva is not properly situated. The finger gets its nourishment by being connected with the body. But if the finger is disconnected from the body, it cannot get its nourishment. So exactly like that, Shastras explain, when we, being part and parcel of Krishna, are being connected with the Lord through the medium of seva, then we become fully satisfied. But if we are not connected with the Lord, then we remain dissatisfied. So our enjoyment, our happiness, our ananda comes by being always in connection with the Supreme Lord. But if you are disconnected, then there is dissatisfaction. So the soul's original nature is to seek love, to be in a relationship of love with the Supreme Lord. But when that is cut off, then that same love degrades into lust, wherein we seek that love from every other object other than Krishna. And this lust degrades the soul from its spiritual status to material status. So therefore, we should secure our spiritual position at any cost, spiritual status. We should preserve our spiritual status at any cost. So that is why we should not allow this love to degrade into lust. Now, if as a sadhaka or as a practitioner, if we try to fight out this lust, little time is fine, but long time if you try to fight then we will fail. Because Maya is very powerful in this world and naturally she will win. Therefore, Krishna says, Mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Unless you take shelter of me, it is very difficult to conquer Maya, Maya's influence. In this regard, there's a very instructive story in the life of Haridas Thakur and Maya Devi, which we will discuss little later. But we should not keep fighting all the time with our senses, which is what the yogis do, the jnanis do. All the time they keep fighting with the senses to keep them under control. So they practice dry renunciation, dry austerities. Therefore, most times they fail. Most of the times they fail. And there are many examples in the Shastra also. So that means, what does this indicate? By this, only by the strength of our senses, only by the strength of our tapasya, our austerity, our penance, only by the strength of our knowledge, even from Shastra, we cannot conquer Maya. And Maya's influence in the form of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, etc. We cannot conquer Maya only by our strength, including spiritual practices. Only by the strength of our spiritual practices, if we try to conquer Maya, face Maya, we will miserably fail. Maya is very powerful. Therefore, Krishna says, take my shelter. I will come to your support. Then you will win over. There are many examples in this regard. For example, Gajendra. Of course, although this instance of Gajendra is not to do with lust, but yet it indicates the fighting strength of an individual versus the Lord's support. So Gajendra, although an elephant, once came with a herd of elephants, his wife and many of his friends. So, and they were having sports in the waters, and somehow, unfortunately, the king of all the elephants, named Gajendra, was attacked by a crocodile. And then this crocodile caught the leg of Gajendra and tried to drag Gajendra into the waters. And Gajendra was fighting and fighting to get out of the clutches of this crocodile's attack. And all the other elephants, including his wife, the she elephant, they all try to support Gajendra in trying to get away Gajendra from the grip of the crocodile. But to vain. They failed. For 1000 years of the Devata scale, this fighting went on. And finally, Gajendra got exhausted. With all his might and power he applied, he miserably failed. Then finally, he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord came in Garuda and cut off the crocodile's head, separating the head from its trunk, and saved Gajendra. So the moral or the valuable advice given by Shukadeva Goswami in this regard is that by your sensory strength, if you try to fight out Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, you will miserably fail. Even any number of years, if you try out, you will fail. Unless you take shelter of Krishna directly. That's why Krishna says, Mama Maya. This is my Maya. It's my material energy. Because it is Krishna's material energy, it is very, very powerful. Nobody can overcome. And there are examples. One may think, oh, I am weak, but maybe I should put up more number of years of sadhana, of austerity, cultivate more knowledge, become more fixed up in philosophical understanding, in my practices, become very steady in my practice, including spiritual practices, then I may overcome Maya. No. We have seen Vishwamitra, so steady and very fixed up, determined in his yogic practices. Sadhana, still he failed. Here we see Chandra, the moon god Soma. They're all very respectable personalities. They're not loose in controlling their senses. They're all devatas, posted to the position of devatas, very highly elevated and very well behaved. Nobody can become a demigod without being well behaved and cultured. Yet we can see that such kind of accidents and slip from their path is very much possible. Saubhari Muni, so many such examples are there. Even Indra. So it doesn't mean that position is anywhere degraded, but this is the power of Maya. We will see in Haridas Thakur's story, some more interesting names are quoted by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. How difficult it is to overcome Maya's power and influence by one's own strength. So therefore, uh, uh, the conclusion is one must necessarily take shelter of the Lord if one wants to overcome the influence of Maya. Vishwamitra realized it later on, and then he became a devotee, and then he conquered the illusory energy. He came to his senses later on. So what should we do then? So unless we take shelter of the Lord and develop bhakti rasa, it is very difficult to overcome material rasas. One must strive from all our spiritual practices. One must strive because we should be clear what are we trying to achieve in this Krishna consciousness process. Bhakti rasa, a taste for devotion, devotional service to Krishna, taste for chanting Krishna's holy name, taste for hearing Bhagavatam, taste for Mahaprasadam. You will say, Mahaprasadam already I have taste. No, spiritual taste of Mahaprasadam. One may say, I like Bhagavatam. No, spiritual taste in hearing Bhagavatam. Not just the philosophical aspects of Bhagavatam, academic interest in Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, analytical interest. Oh, how nicely it is presented, how logical, very interesting solutions are there. That's okay. But what is the spirit of this Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita? It is to make us a devotee. Whether that is happening, make us become attracted to Krishna, to spiritual aspects of life. Whether that is happening has to be seen by reading Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, or by our austerities in spiritual life. Because yogis, jnanis, every transcendentalist are also having different kinds of austerities and different kinds of learning. Patana, they also have practices, they also have sadhana, they also have reading, etc. etc. But the difference in the line of bhakti is uh, all these things are done with the goal of developing our bhakti, devotion to Krishna, awakening our original constitutional position as an eternal lover of Krishna, not lover of Maya, lover of Krishna. So whether we are developing taste to these spiritual practices has to be seen. That is the direct test. So we should strive for this spiritual taste. Param drishtva nivartate. Then it is easy to overcome the influence of these material senses. So Prabhupada says controlling the senses long time will not work. You will become tired and exhausted. That is why controlling senses is not the method of bhakti or a bhakti yogi. Purifying the senses through the process of bhakti. There are many methods to purify the senses. Jnana, yoga, karma, all these things are meant to purify the senses. But the most effective method is bhakti. Elsewhere, Acharyas describe, Prabhupada says, you can't cite one instance of failure of a bhakti yogi that he has fallen down from his spiritual life. You can't cite one instance. So if one is uh, firmly fixed in the process of bhakti, then there's no question of fall down. So you may say that, Prabhu, but we see so many sadhakas, practitioners, they're not able to stick on. They're all sadhakas. They're all practitioners. They're not fixed up in bhakti. Those who are fixed up in bhakti, there's no fall down. So why are we put in such trouble? Why there is so much trouble? Uh, it's because we desire it. Desiring is the nature of the soul, but the quality of desiring is changed in this material world. Our desires are opposed to Krishna, opposed to our constitutional position. Our tendency to enjoy is natural for the soul because the soul's nature is ananda. But the kind of ananda which the soul is seeking now is perverted. So that is the problem. So that has to be changed. And why so much difficulty we are going through in controlling the senses? Because in the Bhagavatam it is explained that particularly in human form, all the senses are active and strong and powerful. But in other species, you take animals, birds, beasts, maybe one of the senses are strong. But in human life, all the senses are strong. Then imagine then what will be the difficulty in overcoming the power of these material senses, unpurified senses. For the fish, it is eye. For the deer, it is ear. For the elephant, it is skin. Like that, for every species, one sense might be very prominent. But in human life, all the senses are strongly demanding sense gratification. Imagine how much difficult it is going to be. So that is why this fight will not succeed. Our fight against the material senses, against kama, krodha, lobha will not succeed. But we should have faith in Krishna and continue the struggle. Krishna as our support. If you continue the fight, then you will succeed. That's what Arjuna did, the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That's what Gajendra did when he took Krishna's help. Krishna made Gajendra victorious. So like that, in our fight with Maya, if we have Krishna with us, then we will succeed. In the same Gajendra story, 8th canto, 2nd chapter, text number 30, Prabhupada makes a very significant point. That one has been found to be very weak in one place does not mean he should stop fighting the crocodile of Maya. One should take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, as we shall see Gajendra do, and then continue the fighting in this world of Maya. There's no need to give up the fight. One should not give up the fighting and go away. Thinking Maya is too powerful, I surrender to Maya. One should not give up the fight. So, as practicing devotees, we are also doing our sadhana, our chanting, our reading. But every day there is war within, between the senses, material senses, and our spiritual practices. So every day there is war going on. So we may get exhausted. One important point here, if you're feeling exhausted, it's an indication you're not spiritually doing it. You're not taking help of Krishna and Guru in your spiritual practices. That's why you're becoming tired and exhausted in spiritual life. Because even after coming to Krishna consciousness, having Krishna with us, the most powerful, why we are feeling tired and exhausted in spiritual life, in continuing our sadhana, Prabhu, I think it's very difficult. Better I give up. Because that means you're not applying the practices in the right way. That means deep within from within your heart, you're not practicing. More or less, that means one is doing mechanically. That is why that spiritual energy flow is not happening. The connection with Krishna is not very strong and prominent. If that has to happen, one has to apply one's mind and heart and soul. One should deeply think, meditate, contemplate about all these things and uh, try to bring about that direct connection. So that should come from the heart, this connection. One should sincerely apply the principles of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness. Then there is a spiritual energy flow from Krishna and Guru. Then it becomes very easy. Actually, for Guru and Krishna, actually for Krishna, Maya is his maidservant. Maya is his own energy. So Maya is not powerful than Krishna. Maya is very insignificant. So for Krishna, it is not at all difficult to conquer, to defeat Maya, to bring Maya under control. Mayam chitad apashrayam. Maya is always under the subordination of Krishna. So, uh, so if we practice spiritual life with heart and soul, not mechanically, then we will not have difficulty in conquering Maya, overcoming Maya's uh, influence and force. So, elsewhere, uh, it is said that actually we are punished or imprisoned in this world. How? Not by shackles, but actually by attraction to material objects. We don't require handcuff to be imprisoned. Our senses and attraction to sense objects are the most powerful form of imprisonment. Nobody can escape. So it's actually a kind of punishment. Every living being is undergoing this punishment of being attracted to the material sense objects. It's a kind of punishment. So we should become aware of this. And blessing means, God's blessing actually means freedom from this imprisonment of attraction to material sense objects. And not only that, not only detachment from attraction to material sense objects, parallelly there's attachment to uh, spiritual aspects of life, attachment and attraction to Krishna Kirtana, Krishna Katha, Krishna Prasada, to the deities, to Vaishnavas, to Guru, to Krishna. There's parallel attraction, deep attachment. That is a blessing. So only detachment is incomplete. Along with detachment to material sense objects, attraction to, positive attraction to everything in Krishna consciousness. Then one is very, very firmly situated. So here Prabhupada talks the aspect of chastity in the purport, how Brihaspati's wife Tara was not chaste. In her relationship with her husband, Brihaspati, who was very respectable. Tara also was respectable, but she became influenced by lust. So, it is not that only uncultured people are attracted to lust. Even cultured people, civilized people also can come under the sway of lust at any point of time, unless one has transcended the modes of nature and become a pure devotee of Krishna. The danger is there. However advanced one is spiritually, there is the risk of coming under the sway of lust at any point of time. So one should always be on guard. So that's what we see here. And it's not the Tara, for sure, Tara is unchaste like that, but she has come under this way of lust, then intelligence is lost. When you come into this way of lust, your intelligence is lost. Your power of discrimination will be lost. Then you may realize later, just like Vishwamitra came under the influence of lust, but later on he realized. Tara also came to her senses. Indra also came to his senses, but later on, not at the first instance. So, uh, so therefore, we should always be conscious, and we should maintain that chastity of that relationship, chastity towards my word of commitment. So that's why Prabhupada says, the time of initiation, we take a vow. We give a word to the spiritual master, to Agni, in front of Vaishnavas, in front of deities, that I will follow the four regulative principles. So one should strive to keep up that word of commitment, and then one will be rewarded. It makes things little difficult, but if we can overcome this difficulty, there is great progress one can make in spiritual life. So for a wife, if she can maintain her chastity and serve her husband devotedly, her devoted husband devotedly, just by the virtue of being dedicated to her husband, being chaste in her relationship with her husband, that means what? No other man in her life. She should not look at any other man in her life other than her husband. And if that husband happens to be a devotee, then even more glorious. Then just by the virtue of serving her devoted husband, she will share all his spiritual credits automatically. 50% of his spiritual credit automatically. So like that, if we remain chaste in our relationship with Guru and Krishna, we remain chaste to the Krishna conscious life, Krishna conscious process, Krishna conscious association, to the Krishna consciousness movement, simply by being dedicated and loyal to ISKCON and Prabhupada, even if you don't do big things, simply by that chastity to Prabhupada as the Acharya, you have accepted him as the Acharya, simply by the chastity, and you execute simple things, whatever you can do in your life, to Prabhupada, and not to give up the shelter of Prabhupada at any cost, not to give the shelter of ISKCON and the process of bhakti as enunciated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this Hare Krishna mantra, this Bhagavatam as given by Prabhupada. Simply by the virtue of sticking on to this, 50% of your job is done. So, telling about Haridas Thakur, once this is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita Antilila in chapter 3 in a very elaborate way, describing the glories of Haridas Thakur, how once Maya Devi, imagine not even Urvashi, actually this chapter we see how Urvashi has attracted King Pururava, and he also came under this way of lust, at least temporarily. Forget Urvashi, Menaka, the heavenly damsels. Here we see Maya Devi herself personally come to test Haridas Thakur. And she accepts defeat first time in her life. She failed to attract Haridas Thakur. It's a very elaborate description. I don't have time. So you can read that. It is chapter 3, Antilila Chaitanya Charitamrita, text 223 to 269. It's very, very nice. The essence, 2-3 points only I would like to share. That Maya Devi, Haridas Thakur, actually Krishnadas Goswami opens up this entire discussion by saying, because of only 2 persons, Lord Krishna agreed to come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of 2 persons' request. repeated request. By the power of their devotion and request, Lord Krishna was obliged to come to this world as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One was Advaita Acharya, who was worshipping on the bank of the Ganges. He's worshipping his Shaligrama Shila by Ganga water and calling out for the Lord to descend to this world, to deliver the jivas in this world. The another request was from Haridas Thakur, who was requesting the Lord to come to this world by his constant chanting of Hare Krishna. So because of these two persons, Lord Chaitanya came to this world. Lord Krishna came to this world as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is the power of these two personalities, that they can even bring Krishna to this world. So Haridas Thakur was was residing in a cave, chanting 3 lakh names of Krishna every day. And one day, Maya Devi comes, and then Haridas Thakur was alone, and it was a very nice evening. The atmosphere was very favorable, conducive. And generally, when the atmosphere is very favorable and conducive, sense gratification, agitation increases. Anyway, so he was alone, and Haridas Thakur was very young and very handsome. And Maya Devi, you can imagine Maya Devi, she has come in a very attractive form to attract the mind of Haridas Thakur. She did all possible things to attract the mind of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur became aware of her presence because she comes and speaks to him. That in fact, she says that saintly persons are very merciful. So they always fulfill the desires of their bhaktas, of one who takes shelter of a saintly person. So I have taken shelter of you, so you should kindly fulfill my desire and bless me. What do you mean by blessing? Only Maya, there is no blessing, there is no mercy. We should not show mercy to Maya. Anyway, so Haridas Thakur says, yes, but I cannot fulfill your desire unless I have completed my commitment. I have committed to chant some certain number of rounds, chanting certain number of holy names of Krishna every day. So I don't have any right to do any other duty unless I fulfill my primary duty of fulfilling this commitment of chanting X number of names. It is actually 3 lakh names. So then he said, you please sit down, and as soon as I finish my commitment of chanting 3 lakh names, I will certainly fulfill your desire. So he promises her. So she also gets hope. Maya Devi gets hope. Okay, he is going to fulfill my desire. And then he goes on chanting and chanting and chanting. And that was at the dead of night when she came. And he went on chanting, and the day came, then she went away. So like the 3 consecutive days she comes, and every day Haridas Thakur goes on chanting, and the day breaks, and then she goes away. On the 3rd day, she finally says that actually, my dear Haridas Thakur, I am Maya Devi personally come to test you. Nobody has failed my test, including Brahma and many other devatas have failed my test. But you are the only person who have passed my test. And I have become defeated, and I accept my defeat, and she bows down to Haridas Thakur. And then she says, now I desire to be initiated by you personally. Please give me Diksha. Earlier I have received the Ramanama from Lord Shiva, which can award me liberation. But now I desire Krishna mantra after associating with you for 3 days and chanting and hearing you chant Hare Krishna. Then Haridas, because Ramanama can give liberation, but Krishna Nama can give you love of Godhead. So she says, I desire this Krishna mantra from you. And Haridas Thakur blesses her, blesses Maya Devi, and then gives her Hare Krishna mantra Diksha, and then she departs. So this is the power of the Vaishnava, pure devotee of Krishna, engaged in constantly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So Prabhupada says that bhakti is very, very powerful. So chanting the holy names always proves to be a success. So we should therefore take shelter of Vaishnava and begin the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. Vaishnava means a pure devotee of Krishna. So we have Prabhupada in this regard. Take his shelter and we should remain chaste in our relationship with Prabhupada as his sincere disciple and follow in his footsteps. We're sure to achieve success in this regard. So stop it. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.